Thank you very much, Prof. Kong, and thank you very much for having Professor David Hung and I here. Originally, Professor Hung had planned to speak for maybe 5 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of me showing the AI related stuff, and followed by 5 minutes of him wrapping everything up. But since he had to be away for urgent NIE business, I'm here to speak on his behalf. So thank you for having us here. So in Singapore, we work at a place called the National Institute of Education, which is a faculty under NTU, Nanyang Technological University. So this year, the Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat of Singapore announced the National AI Strategy for Singapore. So under the National AI Strategy, there were also plans for applying AI in education. So today, I'm going to share about our humble efforts that we've made in harnessing AI thinking in education and in education research in Singapore. So, as you know, there is an urgent need to educate students and educators about AI literacy. Well, in the realm of AI literacy, there's actually quite a lot to cover. Recently, there's been a lot of focus on deep learning. Deep learning includes things like natural language processing, vision, computer vision, and wonderful things like that. But there's also other areas that could be easily harnessed, easily applied to educational research, the low-hanging fruits. So this morning, I'm going to focus a little bit more about how predictive analytics as well as machine learning can be applied not just by computer scientists in education research, but also by everyone, teachers, by the educational stakeholders like policymakers, as well as by, well, education researchers. So in NIE, we have these academic groups. So we have opportunities. So these are opportunities. In NIE, we really need a lot of help from everyone here to help us to ramp up the AI research. So these are really just opportunities and not areas that we have already applied AI in. We need your help. So in NIE, we have academic groups such as Asian languages and cultures, curriculum teaching and learning, early childhood, as well as special needs education, English language and literature, humanities, social sciences, learning sciences, mathematics, natural sciences, physical education and sports, policy, leadership studies, psychological studies, as well as the performing arts. So we welcome every one of you to help us collaborate with us in NIE to apply AI in these areas. So, as you know, one of the main challenges in AI literacy is doing little paradigm shifts in the thinking of the learners as well as in educators. For example, we're all familiar with data in the form of Excel spreadsheets in a 2D form, right? They have rows and columns. So, for example, we might be familiar with data in the form of vectors in matrices, but in AI, we actually use the data in the form of 3D matrices and in multi-dimensional 3D matrices called tensor. So this is one of the things that we have to share with the educators as well as with the education researchers when it comes to handling data. So why do we need to use the concept of a tensor where we apply data using AI? Well, it's because one of the common problems in education research is the data might not be linearly correlated. They might be curvilinear. They might look like this. For example, recently in one study with the Singapore MOE, Ministry of Education, we compared the behaviors of several AI adaptive learning and learning platforms. So these learning platforms come from different vendors and they will behave differently towards the students. So of course the vendors would be reluctant to share with us the algorithms of how their AI system works. So what we have to do is take the final report from the cloud server of each system and apply machine learning to analyze how these AI systems are interacting with our students. For instance, besides helping the students to learn better and score better marks, we could also know that the non-cognitive aspects of the students are affected in certain ways. For example, if the AI system algorithm is too relentless, it keeps pushing the student to learn more and more and more without taking a break, the students will feel stressed. And so we're able to measure that. So the students are also more engaged as the AI systems interact with them, but they will also become less engaged as the AI systems interact with them more and more and more. So there are many opportunities to analyze how these AI adaptive learning systems work. So one of the challenges was, how do you actually apply machine learning to analyze the data from these adaptive learning servers? So we applied the concept of response surface methodology, RSM, using machine learning to do that. So another challenge is in NIE, we have also collected data from wearables of EDA sensors that can measure sweat levels or stress levels or heartbeats, or even EEG data from the brain waves. So these data are time series based data. They are also not easily correlated using so-called conventional frequencies approaches. So what do? So what we did was we tried to use another machine learning approach using a Bayesian network to solve the problem. So in all these techniques, besides needing to know a little bit about AI literacy of the different AI tools, we also had to use a concept that is pioneered by Professor Daniel Zheng. It's called AI thinking. So AI thinking is about better human-in-the-loop coordination between educational stakeholders to engender human-centric reasoning and meaningful discourse via explainable artificial intelligence, XAI. So what is AI thinking? In the realm of understanding that straddles both AI and human-centric domains, humans will still continue to play a role. The notion of AI thinking was first offered by Professor Daniel Zheng in 2013 as a framework that can be used for leveraging data analytics with cognitive computing, thereby enhancing learning by challenging the humans to interpret new findings from the machine learned discovery of hidden patterns in the data. So the usage of AI in education can be used to induce out this AI thinking in students, teachers, and educational stakeholders. So AI thinking in education is not about thinking about finding the right answers using AI. It's about humans thinking about asking better questions using AI. So humans could ask AI questions, AI informs humans with the technical results. The humans in turn reframe technical results from the AI in human-centric terms. The humans can ask better questions and lead the AI instead of being blindly being led by the AI. Humans can access the at-risk education scenarios using simulations. and there could be better coordination between education stakeholders using AI, and everybody will be happy. So, how exactly can we induce AI thinking for better coordination between education stakeholders? So there will be 3 examples. There will be 4 examples that we'd like to share actually. One at a micro level, which is the analysis of a hidden pedagogical motif in an AI-enabled adaptive learning system. 2 at the meso level. The first example would be highlighting how the concept of entropy can be harnessed in the pedagogical system using AI. Another meso-level example would be illustrating how unified analytics across multiple projects can be done using AI. And then finally, there's a macro-level example that discusses about how unified analytics in the educational ecosystem can be done using AI. So, as we use more and more AI in education, the AI systems that we use are really very powerful. So some of these systems can actually be called artificial superintelligence. So artificial superintelligence deployed in education can already surpass the human teacher in terms of its ability to relentlessly perform the task of one-to-one tutoring, initiate progress checks, conduct remediation concurrently to perpetually an unlimited number of students round the clock, wherever and wherever the students choose to learn. Coordination efforts between the education stakeholders, such as policymakers, school leaders, and teachers, for the prevention of risk and safety of students in terms of non-cognitive factors, for example, the psychological well-being or emotional intelligence to manage stress, using the AI-based technology are of paramount importance. So here is a screenshot of the actual software that we use in NIE to analyze the hidden pedagogical motif of an AI-enabled adaptive learning system. So in the traditional intelligent tutoring system, the students will be given questions in an MCQ style, for example, and then you can set it in the system that we can only allow the students to be considered as pass if the students can score at least 50 or 60% of the questions correctly. So in the new AI enhanced adaptive learning systems, instead of doing that, the AI will automatically give the poorer performing students easier questions and the higher performing students more challenging questions to better engage them. However, in our research in NIE, we observed that the algorithm in the AI systems could be relentless in the sense that it could keep pushing the students more and more questions until they feel quite stressed. So we had to literally go in and switch off certain features in the AI system. So there's a lot of opportunities for education research when it comes to observing the behaviors of this super intelligent AI in education. And we welcome everyone here to collaborate with us in NIE to do that. So another example of would be a meso level project. This is about harnessing entropy in a pedagogical system. So the notion of entropy is very interesting in the sense that it's been around for a long time. For example, if you have a cup of coffee on your desk, the heat from the cup of coffee would dissipate into the air and cool the coffee down. However, the energy from the coffee is not lost, right? Because under the universal law of conservation of energy, the energy is not lost, it's simply dissipated somewhere else. So the notion of entropy is similar. Entropy actually means the spread of energy. So imagine a child goes to school, scores poorly in a test, and the mother, or my mother used to tell me, you should have studied harder instead of playing with your friends, or you should have gone to tuition. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that here. You should not go out to the shopping mall, you should study. So in the mental model of our mothers, of my mother, there's already the notion that if you spend less energy in these areas, that energy can be transferred into better results for your studies. So this concept is used here in the exploration of how entropy, which is the spread of energy in one area, can affect positively or negatively the other areas in the pedagogical system. So in our findings, Professor Hong and I authored this paper recently. We found that parts of a pedagogical system would perform better if entropy, which could represent the concept of disorder or the spread of energy, is limited, and therefore if a pedagogical system is sufficiently ordered, considered as low entropy, teaching and learning will be accentuated. Nevertheless, for the pedagogical processes to work, there cannot be low entropy throughout the whole system. The teacher has to initially create disorder in the minds of the students so that they can feel challenged by the new concept. Hence, students not only need a pedagogical system which has an ordered environment to let them learn new concepts, it should also be disordered enough, with enough high entropy to challenge what they know. In order for the pedagogical system to be successful, the sources that contribute to disorder the system have to be reduced. So that was our very technically sounded finding. Here's another example of how education research can be applied at a meso level through the unified analytics in a programmatic research using AI-based Bayesian model in this case. So in NIE, we also collect data from brain scans using FNIR and also MRI, and also we have data using wearable EDA, and we also have data using collected from hair. The cortisol levels in the hair can be measured for stress in the students. And also we have gene expression data, epigenetics data. So how can all this data be used to gauge the interest development level, self-regulation, creativity, social cultural aspects of the student? Well, using AI we can. So this is a Bayesian model that's used to calculate something called the mutual information between all these different programmatic research projects. So it is very easy for the AI, the machine learning software that we're using, to discretize the data into meaningful bins that we can then use human-centric ideas to discuss amongst the researchers, and also visually engage the education stakeholders such as teachers, policymakers, so that we can ask better questions using AI thinking. So in the final example here, we have a unified analysis of educational ecosystem in NIE using AI and something called objectives and key results, OKR. So the notion of OKR was invented by Andy Grove from Intel, and then now popularly used in Google. So so to operationalize this is actually very simple. From the various research projects in NIE, they already have progress reports that come in periodically, and they're already analyzed for whether those projects are meeting the key goals. For instance, are they engaging the students enough? Are they helping the students enough? So these are already being done on a day-to-day basis. So what was done here is to gather all these reports and do a unified analysis using this AI model and with the concept of OKR, so that the management in NIE and in the stakeholders in MOE can at one glance tell, okay, of all the different projects that are being done in this ecosystem, which are the areas that need more help, which are the areas that are really helping the students, which are the areas that need improvement. So in this way, we can do continuous improvement with all the different research groups in NIE. So finally, just to wrap up, there's an urgent need for AI literacy in Singapore schools. We welcome everyone to work with NIE. The notion of AI thinking has been harnessed in education and education research in Singapore in these ways. And these are the various different areas that we could use a lot of help from everyone here. Please do contact Professor David Hung and me so that I can follow up on the projects for you and Professor Hung. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.